Let's use your sales voice on this one. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. Today is September 11, 2015, and it's been 14 years since the attacks in New York City on the World Trade Center, at the Pentagon, and also in Pennsylvania. And I want to take a moment and to remember those men and women who lost their lives and family members who had individuals or families or friends that were affected. We were all affected. And I just want to take a moment of silence to honor and remember those who have passed on. Want to let you know that you're never forgotten. Now, whatever country you're listening to this episode from, or wherever you're listening to this episode from, it's important to remember that as individuals, we have freedom, and sometimes we need to do all we can to maintain that freedom and to protect that at all costs. And wherever you are, you're listening to the show, I'm sure you remember the day 9/11. So as we go into the episode today, I want to go ahead and we know I still got to give my shout outs. I got to give my shout outs. I want to give a shout out to all of the firefighters. I have some firefighter friends, those who actually there at the scene at the time of 9/11. Big shout out to you guys for all the support and all the things you've done. Also want to give a shout out to our men and women of war and all of our soldiers who fight to protect us. Also want to give a big shout out to some of my friends who are locally here who are firefighters, Faye McAlpine, also to my good friend Jonathan Forster, and many others. Thanks for all that you do, and congratulations on your being a successful firefighter, and great to have you as friends. So as we go into the episode today, we have a great guest. We actually have Tracy Goodwin. Tracy is going to talk to us a little bit more about finding our voice, that sales voice, that voice that can help us to be able to better articulate our message, to better gain the right, attention to what we have to offer. I won't take up much more time. Let's go ahead and dive into our episode with Tracy. Welcome to the show, Tracy.
Oh, thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
I'm so excited to be here. I'm excited to have you. Jared Easley, one of our mutual friends, mentioned you, and you connected with him. You were on his show with Kamanzi, and I'm excited to have you here with us today. And we're going to have a great discussion because you are a voice expert. You know about captivating an audience, and as well as providing ways that sales professionals, entrepreneurs can take these tools and apply it to be successful. But before we dive into all the fun stuff, Tracy, why don't you tell us about your coolest sales experience when you were the customer?
Well, I had one recently, and it was just magical. I had won something. I guess you could technically say I had. People will give away these 30-minute sessions. These coaches will give away these 30-minute sessions where they talk to you and whatnot. And I've done a million of them, and the hard sell this and whatever. But I had connected with this woman and really kind of was dreading talking to her, but I had gotten this 30-minute conversation with her, and I got on the phone with her, and we just connected, and she did the free session that she had offered, and that was it. And I said, this was fantastic. I want to work with you. And she was like, well, I'm that's not what this was about. This was just free 30 minutes. And I'm like, no, seriously, you are magical. I want to work with you. And she said, well, okay, great. I mean, we definitely connected, and these are my packages and these are my prices, but you think about it for 24 hours and make sure this is what you want to do. And it was so great because the value was there. She did all she did was what she said she was going to do. She didn't push me. She didn't, it was just so great. And we connected, and I wanted to work with her, and I still do. I bought from her, I bought again from her, and I bought again from her. And, it was all about value. And for me, the buyer, that's what I loved, was that it wasn't about, from her perspective, what's in it for me? Can I sell this woman? She just delivered a great product, and it made me want to buy. So that's my favorite.
I love that because of the fact that it provided a way for value to be first, as opposed to let's worry about the dollars and the money, baby. It was all about let's focus on value. And as a natural byproduct, the dollars came, and because that's the compensation for a great exchange of value.
Yes. She really got it. And, you hear people talk about that a lot. Oh, do the value. But invariably, far too often people instantly try to sell me.
Mm-hmm.
And, for me personally, that's just a turnoff because, do you really care about me? Do you really care about me? And with this woman, she clearly did. I almost had to beg her to let me buy products from her in a way, and it was just really cool. And it's, I just feel like there's so much merit to that. And we get so panicked and so desperate and so concerned. And, we get so caught up in what about me? And she didn't do that. And look at the result for her and for me. It was just a win-win.
Love it. Now, speaking about win-win and speaking about the fact that, those great experiences and offering value, I know you're going to give us a ton of value today, Tracy. But before we dive into that as well, why don't you give us a little background about your experience? I gave a little bit of intro to who you are, but tell us a little bit more about what you do.
Well, it's funny when people ask me what I do and I say, well, I'm a voice expert. I think they don't quite know what to do with that. What does that even mean? And it's really funny because my whole career I've been an entertainer, if you will. I was a professional actor, and then I directed plays all over the world. And really in truthfulness, what I was doing was I was running from my purpose. And my purpose is to help people find their message and speak it beautifully. The voice is the most powerful piece we have, and we wield it like a sword, and we can damage or we can empower, and it's all in how we say everything. And so, we can impact lives and change lives and serve purposes if we really know how to use our voice. So that's what I do. I teach people, I do presentation skills and I do accent reduction, but it's all about using your voice, a tool that's right on you, to maximize every single thing about your life, whether it's a live presentation, whether it's a business call, whether it is water cooler conversation. It's all about the voice,
Mm-hmm.
Think about it. Think about how many people in relationships, he says or she says, are you okay? I'm fine. Okay, the words are I'm fine, but not the way the voice delivered it.
Yeah.
The voice has so much power, So that's what I do. My career for many, many years now has been teaching people how to use their voice. I learned personally 30 years ago how to use my voice. I had a terrible voice. And our voice is so linked to our psychology, and I learned how to use my voice. And for years, people sought me out to help them. And it really was only about 10 or 15 years ago that I really started teaching how to use the voice full time. And I just love it. I'm just so blessed to get to do this because everybody has a message, and to get to help people bring that message to life what a cool gig,
Love it. And I feel the fact, one of the things that makes us so unique and so cool, what your skills and your talents, is that as a sales professional, your voice is important. As an entrepreneur, your voice is important in the way that you deliver a message. And even across the phone, Tracy, that is so key. And sometimes you hear people, hi, this is Jeff from blah, blah, blah. That voice coming across is it just turns me off right away. I'm like, I don't want to hear this as a salesperson. So we can go.
It's so true.
Yeah, it just shuts people down. So, as we go ahead and dive into this, why don't you talk about that? What are some things that you can do to find your voice? You mentioned that you didn't have a voice, or you had a terrible voice. How do you know if you have a terrible voice, and how do you go about finding your voice?
Well, those are two great questions, and it's interesting for me. I find it so ironic that I do what I do, because I was raised, and this is not said in any negative way whatsoever. I'll be 50 this week, and so I grew up a long time ago, and the way I was raised was, the concept was children are to be seen and not to be heard. And I don't mean that in a negative way at all, but, I was an adult before I really, was able to start sharing my message. And that's what I see with so many people, is that they are afraid to even speak their truth for a myriad of reasons. Usually they're worried about what other people are going to think, but so many people afraid to share their message, whether it's from a stage in a presentation or whether it's just in a conversation with a boss or a client. They are scared to get their words out. So part of it is building the confidence and the courage, and I call it run to the roar, to speak your truth. Now, the other part of that is, by the time I was a late teenager, I had created, and we create, this is a mind bender, but we create our voice based on our psychology. So based on our life experiences, we'll come up with the voice that we have. And a perfect example of that is, and this, again, I don't mean anything negative, but, a lot of women will get up in this high voice. That's totally cultivated and crafted because that's what they think they need to do. I just finished working with a group of girls that, we have to talk to the customers like this. No, you don't. That's not your real voice. So I had crafted this high-pitched, kind of nasally voice, and I wanted to be a professional actor. And, the big guys were saying, we have a big problem here. So I went into intensive voice training. Get rid of the nasality, get the sound out, speak in your real voice, lower your pitch, play with variety. What is your range? How can you make things interesting? And that's the second part of it is, taking that voice, learning to speak the words, speak your truth, but then learning how to do it beautifully. And that's the voice technique part that anybody can learn. It's so easy. And once you lay it in, once you know how to do it, then you can captivate any audience, anytime, anywhere. I don't care if it's live, on camera, over the phone, podcasting. The voice is everything, or I certainly think it is.
This is really good, and I really like the fact that you mentioned a little bit earlier about the high pitched nasally voice. Society sometimes tells us you need to speak like this or you need to be like this, but you need to really be comfortable with yourself and really deliver that unique voice that you have, because no one else has that voice just like you and your ability to deliver or to carry a message across. And it's important to master that internally. Now,
it really is. And, I just wanted to add something to what you said about being on the phone. I want to tell you something that happens to me all the time, because I know you have a lot of listeners, that a lot of entrepreneurs, and, I bet that they've experienced this. Maybe you've experienced this, but you start listening to a webinar or a podcast. It's just like what you were talking about on the phone. I really want to learn this information, but I can't get past the voice.
Yes.
And, I just the other day, I want to learn Instagram. I want to learn social media, and got on watching this webinar. Hey, everybody. So, hey. And I thought, I can't. I'm going to have to buy a book. I can't. It got in the way, So I just wanted to throw that in, that, it could have been a sale there. I'm sure that person was selling a product.
Of course.
I couldn't make it to the end. Couldn't make it to the end.
It's very interesting how you point that out too, and how people connect with you based on their voice without even seeing you, without even, physically seeing you, but they can really connect and kind of depict what you may look like, or how your emotions you may be depicting on your face because of just how you carry your voice across. Now, here's another point that some of the things I wanted to get from you too, because I know you mentioned earlier that there's certain techniques that people can learn. What are the most critical tips for improving your own voice?
Well, there are several top ones. Of course, there's you can get into all kinds of beautiful nuances, but there's a couple of what I call deal breakers. And I know that so many people, you had said earlier, how do people even know if they have a bad voice? I think people a lot of times know, or a lot of people perceive that they do. But one of the things that happens that makes them think that is what I call flatlining. They have it all figured out in their head, but when the words actually come out of their mouth, they're flat. So everything starts sounding the same, and there's nothing really different about anything. There's no shifts in speed or pitch or anything like that. And if you start flatlining, our brain tells us to check out every 90 seconds. So if you're flatlining and my brain tells me to check out and you are not captivating me, I probably will. And the problem with that is once you lose your audience, it's so very hard to get them back. And it's because flatlining, it creates predictability. So what we want to do is we want to be unpredictable. If I don't know where you're going or what you're doing, I want to stay with you. So by adding in nuances and variables of speed shifts and volume shifts, and most importantly, adding stress to words, you've got to let me know what's important. If you say to me, I want you to buy this now because it's ending in 5 minutes, I'm not sure what's important there. You've got to help me know what's important, so stressing words. So adding that variety in to keep from flatlining is one of the most important things because that creates that unpredictability. And we're unpredictable all day long in life, but then you put a script in our hands or you put us in front of a presentation or get us on a business call and we flatline. We become totally predictable, and that's why we lose our audience. And I guess the second most important thing is probably breathing. And the statistics and the research on breathing are absolutely fascinating. See, I do stuff like that in my spare time. But, we don't breathe. And several things, there's a lot of reasons why. Of course we breathe. We would die if we didn't breathe. But what we do is we shallow breathe, and so we don't have any power because we don't have any capacity. So we take these little breaths and then we try to run out all our get all the information out, and we don't have any breath, and so we sound like that. But there's other byproducts of that not breathing. The tension in our face, the tension in our body. With the public speaking, the number one fear was stressed out to the max, and we're not breathing, and that's not working in our favor. But, and here's the best part, and this is the game changer, we take in air, but we don't let it out because we're protecting ourselves from being vulnerable. So as soon as we let that air out, we become vulnerable, we become real. And that is what our people connect to. They don't connect to our words, they connect to us. But we have to allow ourselves to be vulnerable enough to let them in, and so we have to let the air out. Spent a whole class yesterday getting everybody breathing, and the results were just chill after chill after chill, what they were capable of doing when they were able to step into just letting that breath out because they became so real. So those are two of the really, really important ones. I think next is, I don't like the word articulation because you say that word and people, what is that anyway? Does that mean I have to overpronounce my words? No, you need to get the words out of your mouth. The words are going to come out. They're going to come out one way or the other. So you need to drop your jaw, open your mouth, and let them come straight out. so that we can understand them. And there's other parts of that too, and if we had all day to talk, I would just go on and on and on and give you all of those, but I know that we don't, so I have to try to temper my responses. But those are some big deal breakers, I think, and some big game changers if people can make those shifts.
Here's one of the final questions I have regarding the whole idea of voices and finding your voice. Tell me about storytelling. Like storytelling, I know it's important. I've done episodes on that, why storytelling is so important. But for you as a voice expert, why is storytelling a key in captivating an audience or captivating a room?
Well, we connect to people. Stories are about our lives. And it's really funny. People, storytelling is so great and so popular, and people use it, but it must be done correctly. And again, it must be done through vulnerability, and that means you have to tell me all the parts. And I think sometimes we select the pieces that we want to tell of the story. But I need to tell you the catastrophic event that happened. I need to tell you how I survived that. I need to tell you what I did, and I need to tell you the results. A lot of times we'll just say, it's down on my luck, and I bought this product, and now I'm a millionaire. Okay, I can't connect to that. I want to know, how was it living in your car for 3 months? Because that's going to trigger something in me. Maybe I didn't live in my car, but maybe that's going to trigger something in me that I'm going to connect to. So the parts of the story, the good, the bad, and the ugly, somewhere in those shades are how people in your audience, they're going to connect to parts of that. And that's how you're going to captivate and engage them. And, I think it's also really important when you pick stories that I think what we tend to do is we tend to think, oh, I like that story. That's a good story. I'm going to tell that story about that time I went to so-and-so. We have to pick the stories for our audience. What are they going to connect to? And then we have to tell them in such a way that's vulnerable and real, that we reel them in. And, it's kind of almost hooks them and connect to them through our experience. And it's the selection of that story, the parts of that story, and the delivery of that story that can literally change lives, or not. My brother-in-law has been telling me the same stories for 47 years. I couldn't tell one today. I couldn't repeat one of them today, because those stories are all about him and the way they deliver. And I love my brother-in-law, don't get me wrong. But there's stories that I heard 12 years ago that I'm still reeling from because they touched my life. They changed my life. I connected to a piece of them, and the way they were delivered moved me. So, I do think storytelling is really important, but I think we have to be really careful beyond, just tell a story. Mm-hmm. I think we have to do it right.
Yes. I love it. Love it. So true. Now, I love a lot of the points that you brought out today, specifically the fact of finding your own voice, making sure that it's not just random stories that tie to individuals, tied to something specific. There's a lot of little nuggets that I pulled out of this today, Tracy. But if there's one thing that someone listening to this podcast, a sales professional or entrepreneur listening to this podcast can walk away with, what would that one thing be?
Well, I want to tell you a little nugget. I want to tell you a little nugget about a fella I worked with, and he came up with this, not me, but it's literally the cornerstone of everything I believe in. He came to me, a guy from Chicago, darling fella, his name was Adam, and he came to me because he had a thick Chicago accent, and every time he said his name, he said Adam. And every time people would say, "What's your name?" And he got so sick of repeating his name, he came to me, and we worked for months, forever. We couldn't get rid of him. We became absolutely one of my greatest friends. He was a stellar salesman. And in the middle of the night, one night, I get this email from him, and he couldn't wait to talk to me. He said, "You got to call me first thing in the morning. I've made this incredible discovery." And I called him, and I said, "What is it? What is it? What is it?" He said, "I figured it all out." And I said, "Good, tell me." And he said, "Products don't sell. Voices do."
Ooh.
And it was so true that we have the power within us, in our voice, to do anything we want, good, bad, indifferent. Our voice, it really, and I guess I'd always known it, but in that moment, it really hit me just how powerful the voice can really be. But you got to use it. You've got to use it. And really, everything you said, you've got to use it because you've got to let the words out, and then you've got to know how to let them out. Because if you do, you literally can change lives. You can sell products. You can get the girl. You can advance in your career. You can build confidence beyond measure. And all of that comes from the power of the voice. You can sell courses. You can do things you never thought you could do with your voice.
Love it.
So I guess that's my golden nugget is, that's how powerful the voice is, and to just have the courage to step into that power. Use it. It's there. It doesn't cost you anything. It's free. It's right there.
Love that. And I feel that that's something that we just all need to reconsider sometimes as sales professional. The product's not going to sell itself. That service or, whatever you have, your voice is what truly is going to sell that. So I love it.
Yeah.
Now, Tracy, if the audience would like to get in touch with you, want to stay connected with you, what's the best way for them to do so?
Probably the website is the best way, captivatetheroom.com, and they can email me directly at Tracy, Tracy, at captivatetheroom.com. But all of my information and social media and everything is on the website, so just jump on there and look me up. I'd love to talk to them.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much, Tracy. I'm excited to have you come on the show, and I'm grateful for the insight that you brought with us today. So, as always, just thank you, and keep going out and doing some awesome stuff.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Tracy gave us some great information. You can always find all of our information about our guests by going to thesalesevangelist.com. You can get connected with Tracy there. Thesalesevangelist.com, episode number 190. Craziness, 190 episodes. Again, thesalesevangelist.com, episode number 190. I want to thank Tracy for coming on the show. I want to thank you for listening. And also at the top of the episode, I mentioned our firefighters and for the men and women who fought to defend our freedom. I also want to remember the New York City Police Department and those individuals who were there and also sacrificed their lives as well. So, hey, as always, I want you to be successful. I want you to be happy. Most importantly, I want you to go out and do big things.